So this is part 5. So yeah, we finished off with the trip. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to say, I guess, one more thing about that. Uh, so yeah, I woke up the next day and just felt like totally normal, and I just sort of like started started doing things like basic things. Like I remember, I think I woke up and I just like started doing the dishes. And like early on in that morning, I think I mentioned before, I had like these sort of like rage episodes where I would sort of like fight with people that I used to know, people that I used to work with in many cases, but not exclusively. Just people I used to know. I'd like sort of have like fights with them, or I'd have some confrontation, or sort of like tell them off, or imagine some kind of aggressive confrontational situation. And that like, so one of those thoughts just kind of came up like the next morning, and it was weird. I just kind of like uh, I just kind of thought to myself, wait, no, like that's not what we're doing. It just somehow I don't know, I can't explain it. um that experience, and it didn't sort of, it's not like necessarily it was like literally 100% overnight, but it just seemed to short circuit um, that anger in me. It just short circuited it. I don't know. Like, and it tried to start up again, and it just failed. It just sort of like puttered and just died. I can't explain it. And yeah, like, so maybe, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, there may have been a few times, or more than a few times, when it tried to start up and it just puttered, like a lawnmower that won't start. It just wouldn't work. And I can't explain that. um, I don't need to explain it though. Okay, so yeah, so another thing I wanted to say, and this is also important, like just like the other stuff I told you about the during part, the after part, the stuff I have to say about the after part is important too. So, like I said, like you sort of, if you do it right, you will approach it in the right way and do the work ahead of time. Like I was saying, like a year of therapy, years of suffering, thinking and feeling about the thoughts and feelings. Uh, and then you do it in the right way, and you let go and all of that, and just kind of like be open to it and everything, open your heart. And afterwards, it's not necessarily that just everything's going to be totally perfect and great exactly afterwards. It could take a year. You could continue to be, depressed, or abusing whatever substance or whatever. But uh, you will remember what you experienced, and you will think about it and feel about it. You will reflect on it, and that's part of. I think that's part of the process. I think that's uh, how you use this stuff. It's the before, the during, and the after. Life is the trip. So, uh, having said that, so that happened, and that first day, and the second day, and the third day, I felt great. And like I remember, we visited my parents maybe 3 4 days after that happened. This was like literally like maybe the trip was like a week or a week and a half before Christmas Day, something like that. And so we went and visited my parents. And usually when I would visit my parents, like dementia sort of evolves, like each stage is kind of different or whatever. And just, I don't know, going to visit my parents, I would become, typically, like I would become incredibly depressed, like to the point of it being like, if I was sitting in a chair, to get out of the chair, like I would look like a 90-year-old man getting out of the chair, like just completely absent any kind of psychological motivation, and totally physically exhausted at the same time, as if the physical exhaustion was in fact a product of the complete and total psychological exhaustion. So oftentimes, we visit my parents and I would get like that. I'd be pretty quiet and sort of morose or whatever, there in the long-term care home. And then like going back like the next day, or later in the day, like I would just be completely exhausted. And for some reason, we went there and we just had like some like sweet stuff and some like crackers and cheese or something, and I was just like in a good mood. And both my mother and father, even though they sort of had advanced dementia, they sort of picked up on it, and it's like they could sense it. And I was just sort of like in a good mood or something, and just sort of like interacting with them, and it was just completely different. I can't explain that either. But I just wanted to say, so I had that experience, and I was sober for a week. And so what happened was like how that ended, that week of sobriety, the way that ended, it wasn't like just some total psychological emotional collapse and, oh, I give up and, relapsing hard or anything. It was basically, I think it was New Year's Eve or maybe the day before New Year's Eve. I just, one of the things that people like alcoholics will do is they'll say, oh, last hurrah, like this is the last drink. This will come up later. Yeah, this is the last drink, like if it is your last drink and you tell yourself that it is, then it's okay to do it, and to go hard too. Um, so I did that, like I think the second last day of the year, and New Year's Eve. I did that, and it's not like I was totally in despair. I was just telling myself, oh, the last hurrah or whatever. And so going into the new year and the spring, um, like there were some things internally inside of me that had been sort of fundamentally like fixed or addressed. Like I said, that anger had been short circuited. Fundamental change uh, had happened, and there were consequences of that were coming down the pipe, that were, inevitable. The change was inevitable, but it takes time. So you could do this, and it's okay. Like if it takes more time, it takes time to come out of depression or addiction. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the winter and spring, like, in terms of like my how I was functioning, in terms of how I was functioning, I had tried to do school in the fall of 2023. I think I had classes in the winter. Yeah, I had classes in the fall of 2022, and then like winter term 2023, I had classes. Passing some of them, I think failing others, never passing all my classes. And then in the fall of 2023, I started classes and I just like couldn't finish them. I just like couldn't, like I just couldn't do anything. I was like paralyzed. So I just ended up like sort of failing all those classes. I was saying, oh, okay, I'll drop them and I'll get like, I won't suffer less of an academic penalty if I drop them before the drop date or whatever, and get some partial refund on the tuition. I literally forgot to do that. Like I didn't even forget. I just didn't even bother to check. And then I noticed, I looked one day and it was a week ago. Like I literally couldn't even do that to drop the classes like before the deadline or whatever. So it doesn't even matter. I think I had some classes in the winter and spring. It doesn't even matter. So nothing externally really had changed in my life or my functioning. I was probably, like getting drunk and smoking weed, like something like 5 days a week. Like I said, that dosage would be like let's say approximately 2 6% beers. Then you'd smoke quarter of a gram and then have a cigarette and then wait like 90 minutes or an hour or 45 minutes and then just have another two beers and another quarter of a gram and a cigarette. And that was sort of like, that would be the dosage. So like something like 5 days a week. So it's not like a crazy amount, but it's, not good. Yeah. So then we get into the summer of 2024. So yeah, I keep worrying I'm going to like forget to say some important stuff, but whatever. Like I got to do this, for better or for worse. Okay. So yeah, in the summer, maybe it was July or something. I'm not sure. My brother-in-law visited, and it was like a surprise or whatever. I didn't know. He just like somebody just sort of delivered him to our house. Um, so I wasn't expecting that, but that was like maybe July or maybe August or something like that. When he visited for like 10 days or something like that. Uh, yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of how to say this. Okay, so um, I just want to talk about what it's like being basically drunk every day, or most days at this point, not literally every day of the week, but so I would be, under the influence starting maybe 3 p.m. or something, like most days out of the week, and I'll get into this, but for like I guess a 9 month period approximately, I was literally like drunk, like really drunk, like every day without exception, like day after day, week after week, month after month, for like 9 months. When you're drunk every day, like you can't really be a person. Like it's you can't think the full range of thoughts, and you can't feel the full range of emotions that a normal person has. Um, you can't make plans for the future. You can't really be around anybody unless those people are also like drunks or addicts or whatever. So you can't you can't be around the people that you care about or people that care about you. You certainly couldn't be a parent or a spouse or anything. You can't really be a person. You can't make plans for the future or work towards anything. You get your dopamine hits from just like drinking or whatever, not from like whatever life is for people, like building things or making things or whatever. So that's sort of like what it's like. So uh, one thing that happened, so when my brother-in-law came, I was basically like forced to not to not drink. And I remember the first day I was like really, just the withdrawal was consistent with, I suppose, mild to moderate, something like that. Just like no energy and bored. Your brain's sort of like, where's my dopamine at? Like this sucks. That's sort of like what it's like. It's like that meme of like from Narcos, Escobar. He's sitting around like in his he has nothing to do. He's like on the run from the cops or whatever, and he's like looking at the empty pool and sitting around just feeling. So it's kind of like that. That's sort of like what your brain is like when you're going through mild alcohol withdrawal. Yeah, so I had to go like all these days without alcohol, and like the first day was kind of like low energy, not really excited about anything. In the second day, and I remember like maybe like after 3 days, like on the third day or the fourth day, I remember the way I felt. It was sort of like it was sort of like I felt like I was meeting some guy that I hadn't met in a really long time. Like I hadn't seen him in like years, and I almost like forgot that I knew him. And I remember like kind of, it was sort of like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, like, he's a cool guy. Like he's, we should we should hang out more. um, so I like the feeling I got in this like forced sobriety, and also like doing things, like just doing things, going out around the city and stuff, doing tourist stuff with my brother-in-law and my wife. Um, yeah, it was sort of like meeting myself again. It was weird, and I remember thinking, uh, maybe people should know me, and maybe they would like to, and maybe I should know them, and maybe I would like to know them. Um, so that was an interesting experience. Um, yeah, I'm just this other thing. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not going to add any context. Uh, Maybe in another life, Mrs. Davis. Yeah. So then my brother, he went back to Poland, and so I had resolved, like so many times in the past, I resolved to get sober, and so I had 3 day periods of withdrawal, um, and there was quite a trip in itself. So like going through 3 days of withdrawal, relapsing. It was, I think I almost did it like a schedule. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday withdrawal, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, drinking, something like that. So I remember the first 3 day period of withdrawal, because apparently withdrawal, like the physical withdrawal, it's 3 days for everybody, no matter how, if you're a heavyweight, a middleweight, or a lightweight. And the worst I ever got to was like something like middleweight. The reason why I say that is I think the way I measure it is, what are your withdrawal symptoms? So, if you need medical assistance, then you're a heavyweight. I would say mild withdrawal, like a lightweight, it's just sort of like the Escobar meme. Your brain's sort of like that. Moderate withdrawal. So if you're a middleweight, was sort of what I experienced here. It was like sort of depression, anxiety, irritability, depression, anxiety, irritability, depression, anxiety, irritability. It was crazy. Um, you might be able to hear some traffic out here. The depression and the irritability I was used to, but the anxiety, it was crazy. I don't know how people live with anxiety. Like it's like being in a prison. It wasn't like worrying about any one specific thing. It was like just sort of like worrying about everything and nothing. It was, I can't quite explain what it was like. Um, yeah, so that first day was so crazy. I was just like, I actually don't think, like, I think I need to taper. Like, this is like too much. And so I went and I got, I think, like, I think it was 3 5% beers. And then I just got a joint and like probably smoked half of that half-gram joint. Um, which made me feel better. And then the second and the third day, I was totally sober. And then I relapsed the next day. And then, yeah, like probably 3 4 days. And then again, another 3 day period of withdrawal. Not quite as bad, but I didn't need to taper. And then I relapsed 3 or 4 days. And then another 3 day period of withdrawal. Probably less, like even easier than the one before. So I kind of like knocked down the physical tolerance there for a while. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break for a sec. Okay. Yeah, so that was like sometime, I guess, in like August is when that happened. And so then after the third 3 day period of withdrawal, I would have relapsed again. And then I don't know, it might have been a week, 2 weeks, I'm not sure exactly when, but I then made a more, again, I resolved to get sober. So this time it was good. I managed to get 5 days, and the 5 days were like really good, and there wasn't really much withdrawal to speak of. Just sort of a different kind of life, and your brain sort of used to doing that, used to getting its dopamine hits from that. So, but it wasn't really that hard. And then so on the fifth day, everything fell apart, and so like my parents. So my mom like had this skin condition where for some reason the detergent in the long-term care home, they would do all the laundry together, and that detergent somehow caused her skin to break out. And the stupid long-term care home, they wouldn't like switch their uh, they wouldn't switch the detergent or like do her laundry separately. They just wouldn't do it for all the money that my parents paid at that place. So we basically had to hire somebody to do my mom's laundry. And so normally, like I would write a check, like every month, I would write a check as POA for this person. And so then there was this one. So we had a great day. It was a Thursday, and me and my wife, we had a great day. And we took my mom and my dad to this place close to the long term care home, and we had like lunch and coffee, and we spent time with them, and everything was great. And then we went home and we made dinner, and we like watched some movie or whatever, and everything was going really great. I felt really great. And then because my wife was going to be the one to like drop off the check at the long-term care home for the woman so she could pick it up next time she came to do laundry. And so then I went into this other room here into this desk to get the checkbook, and so I was looking through there, and I found like the checkbook. There's no more checks on it. This is a big deal. There were no more checks on it, and I started feverishly looking through the drawer, like, oh, there must be more checks. Yeah, another checkbook, and I couldn't find one. I was like, oh shit! Like you don't understand how big of a fucking deal this is, because like I said, like her reaction to things is worse than the thing, and sometimes there isn't even a thing. Like it's just something that's not even an issue at all, and she freaks the fuck out over it. So I was like scared. And yeah, and so then I realized I don't have a checkbook. I can't write a check. Now, one thing we did, just a sec. Like one thing we did in 2020, we had cash, but my mom had cash in her like drawer or whatever, and we were able to use that to hire a PSW to come and help out. And so we would just write out a receipt. Like we had this receipt book, and we would just write out a receipt, and you get the person to sign it so the money's accounted for, right? So I still had that thing, and so I thought, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll go in there and I'll tell her, okay, I'll just go to the bank tomorrow morning, I'll take out the cash, and I'll give that to you, and then I'll give you like this receipt. I'll just write out this receipt, and so we can do it that way, and you can just have her sign it. And she just freaked out. Like she just like she overreacts to things that aren't that big of a deal, and she will even react to things that aren't a thing at all. She just freaks out. And when she gets like this, it's sort of like she puts up this wall of emotion, and you can't get through the wall. You can't communicate, like you can't get to her. And so that's what happened. I remember she even like folded her arms at one point. She's like, do what you want. Like she just like shut down, and like she just wouldn't. I was trying to explain to her, this is okay. We can do this. Just get her to sign the receipt. We can pay her. It's no problem. and she refused to communicate with me, to cooperate. She just like kind of threw up her hands and just like sort of folded her arms literally and just sort of like shut down. And I just couldn't believe it. And I remember I said something like, I was really emotional. I lost control of my emotions. And I just said like this one little thing and everything falls apart. It's just everything falls apart because of this. And so I just completely, I remember I had the checkbook and I hit it against the frame of the door in the room. I just hit it, like I was just so like angry, like God damn it, like this one little thing and everything falls apart. And that's what it was like. Like something might go wrong or something's gone wrong. It's, oh God, like I have to tell her, and then so yeah. So that night, I just like so many other nights ever since we moved into this house. Um, I would basically like I just got like my wallet and my keys and my cigarettes or whatever, and I left and I just went to a bar and had like 2 beers or whatever. This town, like the last call is like 1:45 in the morning, and it's not a huge town, so uh, yeah. So I like relapsed, and okay, yeah. So where do I go from here? Yeah. So I think yeah, I can skip that stuff. Anyway, so yeah, total dumpster fire. And so there was a situation. So there was an attempt. I guess this would have been after. Yeah, this was after what I just told you. Um, Sort of last ditch attempt to try to address things, to try to talk to her about things and try to fix things. And one of the things I could have mentioned any number of things. One of the things I wanted to mention was this conversation in the car when we were going to get pizza back in like late 2021, maybe January or something of 2022, before the lawsuit had been thrown out. I said this would come up. Um, so, like, to recap, we were driving in the car and she said, if your brother wins this lawsuit, it will be your fault. And I said, how dare you say that? You take that back. And she refused. So I bring this up in like maybe September or whatever of 2024. And I didn't like, we were just talking. We weren't arguing. We were just talking, but about serious things and, problems and stuff, supposedly trying to, address things and fix things. And so I just wanted to, I brought this up in an attempt to like get her to understand, this was really mean and, what you did. And don't you understand that it was really mean and you shouldn't have done it? And so I mentioned this in a very sort of casual tone, not sort of accusatory. And she said, well, okay, so you have to understand that the reason why I said that is because I was stressed because you hadn't hired a lawyer. So, like if you remember, and I guess it was part two, uh, I had hired a lawyer like whatever the second week of that term in the fall term, like it would have been in like mid September, maybe even early September, like the second week of September, maybe is when I contacted a lawyer. Like I was right on that. Like, and I haven't bothered to, produce this documented evidence, but, like the checks that were written to the lawyer, it's like they were scanned. Like that check is scanned by the bank. Like there's a literal written record that I had retained a lawyer in September. This conversation did not occur in September. It did not occur in the first week of September. This conversation occurred months after I retained a lawyer. So, like, I believe this is like it's sort of like an internet colloquial expression. It's not sort of used by psychologists officially, but I believe the term for this is gaslighting. Um, and she would do that. She would rewrite history. It reminds me of this quote from 1984. Every statue has been torn down. Every painting has been repainted. Every book has been rewritten. There is no past and there is no future. There is only an endless present in which the party is always right. That's what it felt like. She would just rewrite history, and she'd tell me, I did something that I didn't, or I promised to do something that I didn't promise to do. And so she said this to me, and I didn't challenge it in the moment. I've heard that the purpose of gaslighting is one of the things is it causes the person that's being gaslit to question their perception of reality. I can tell you that it sort of worked in this sense. I wasn't sure if she actually said it. I thought maybe I misheard her, or maybe she somehow misspoke, or I just misunderstood her. I actually questioned whether or not she said this. I wasn't sure if she had said it. And so that came up. So then there was another conversation that occurred, trying to think of the order of events here. Yeah, there was maybe a month or so had gone by. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll leave that for a little bit later. Okay, so in the fall of 2024, there was a period of 2-3 weeks where I basically I went through the final deciding what am I going to do, because I'm really unhappy and I can't seem to sort of get through to her, and it just seems like nothing's going to change. She's not going to change. So it was sort of like the final process of the grueling process of realizing that you have to sort of give up. Yeah, so at some point in I guess October of 2024, I made the decision I have to divorce this person. Yeah, so I guess I realized, one of the things I realized, it's not my responsibility to fix this person. It's not my responsibility to lead by example and inspire her to fix herself. And it's not my responsibility to wait, hope that, one day she's going to have some epiphany and she's going to realize she needs to fundamentally change. It's not my responsibility to wait and hope that that's going to happen, or to think that there's something that I can do to lead by example. I'll do great in school. I tried to, and I believe I mentioned in part 2, what was it called? Monday, Bloody Monday. And how that just broke me. I was planning on leading, showing her I'm doing better. And instead just got, beat down. Yeah, so the way I think about this, so imagine you're in this situation, like my situation. And let's say you're married to this person, but you have a 7-year-old child. So so this is going on, you're being verbally, you're being treated in this way, or whatever it is. This is being done to you. And you have a 7-year-old child. So what do? Do you fix your spouse? Is that what you do? And you have to figure out some way you fix them, or you lead by example. Maybe if dinner tastes good enough, if the house is clean enough, if you make enough money, if you're busy enough, if you look good enough, or if you work out enough, maybe then they'll change. Is that what you do when you have a 7-year-old child? Or do you wait? Maybe you wait. Just give it time. Maybe it'll change. And while that's happening, while you're waiting, that 7-year-old child of yours, it's not you, it's not an adult, it's a child. It's a 7-year-old child. They're going to see that. They're going to see you being hurt. They're going to see this dysfunction in their life, in their family, between their parents. Maybe you wait and you just give it time. So I think we all know that no, you don't do that. That child should not see that. That child should not be a part of that, and it's going to mess them up. It's non-negotiable. It ends now. That child is taken out of that situation. I mean, if you can do that. So what I'm trying to say is you're that child. You have the same basic ontological value as that child. It is not okay to be hurt, to be not listened to be lied to be gaslit. By the way, the thing about like being gaslit, like that experience, what I told you about, how she claimed that I didn't have a lawyer at that time, it's sort of hard to explain exactly how it makes you feel. I guess if I had to put it into words, I would say it makes you feel like you don't matter. So that's how you should think about that if you're in that situation. You are that child. And so it stops now. It's non-negotiable. It stops now. Because that's what you would do as a parent. Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, I said in part one, there's all kinds of things I can't say, won't say, shouldn't say. All I'll say is, I believe that she has no insight into how she hurt me because she has no insight into how she was hurt, because she didn't come from a perfect family either. We have that in common. Yeah, it's not that we like didn't love each other. It's not that we didn't have good times together, but we were never happy. And I think I understand why we were never happy, but we just didn't know it. And I think the reason why we didn't know it is because we both grew up in unhappy homes. So it was normal for us. Because you think it's you. It's not you. Like how you grew up, the bad things that happened. Just like the bad things that may be happening to you now. Yeah, so like I was thinking like your family is sort of like your first country. It's not like the actual literal country that you live in, that you were born in. Your family is your first country, and they don't issue passports or anything, but that country has its own culture and its own customs, and that's where you come from. And so when you grow up in that, like it's you think that you think it's you think that's normal. It's that can happen. Like if you come from a happy family, so that first country that you come from, you sort of take it with you out into the world. If you came from a happy family, then that's good. But if you came from an unhappy family, then that's bad. Um, so I think one of the things that happens with people, if you're an adult, when you come from an unhappy family, then you're like 18, 20, whatever, you move out. And you may think to yourself, like, there's gradations to this. Like, if you're from a really messed up family, then it's like totally obvious to you. But it's like my dad, he was a psychologist. Actually, when he had for a while, he had like a private practice where he studied. What he did was he would examine people that were in low level car accidents because so if you're in a car accident, it's really serious and you're bleeding from the head, they're like, yeah, get this guy to the ER, like check him for brain damage. But if you're in a low level accident, like your brain is like there's the skull and there's your brain and there's like fluid in between. And so even a low level accident, the brain can like hit the inside of the skull and you can get very low level damage to the brain. So that's a metaphor for families that are not healthy. Like maybe you didn't get the crap kicked out of you when you were growing up, but You may have been in a low level, like low speed accident, and you may not understand. Like my dad said, there's like people can have problems with memory or maybe like possibly speech or just very slight things. And it needs to be identified and addressed as soon as possible. You don't want to leave it for 20 years. It's not good. So that's really hard. First off, because you grow up in that first country and it's normal to you to a certain extent. You don't understand completely how it's not everybody grew up that way. But even if you do understand, you may not understand how it affected you, the extent to which it affected you. Usually what happens is people go out into the world and it affects their relationships, personal, like friendships, romantic relationships, work. So that's normally how people find out that they were in a low level, low speed car accident. So one of the things that happens, you leave that first country and you go out into your second country, into the world, and you may think to one degree or another, well, I'm glad that's behind me. It's not behind you. You go out into the world and you think like, well, who am I going to love and who's going to love me and who are my friends going to be and what am I going to do and what's my life going to be? Because I'm independent now. I'm an adult. It reminds me of this quote from Wordsworth: "The child is the father of the man, or the child is the father of the woman." Don't forget that. So you go out into the world and you think, so yeah, I got that behind me, and I'm going to go out into the world. I'm going to make my life, and so what can happen is if you don't fully understand what happened to you and haven't addressed it, you will have problems in your adult life, in your relationships. And the thing is, it's like a blow upon a bruise. It's the second hit, like it almost hurts more because of the disappointment and the sense of confirmation that it gives you. And you think, like it hurts more. You think like, this is my life. I get, this is me. Like, this is how people treat me. Maybe people hurt me or people abandon me or they ignore me. You think it's you. It's not you. So that's something that happens, like if you came from an unhealthy family, that's something that happens when you go out into the world. And it's like that second hit that is worse in a way. Yeah. So I remember when I told my wife that I wanted a divorce, I actually I quoted a line from a song called "A Sad Song About a Girl I No Longer Know" by a guy named Charles Irwin. Another recommended for you. It was a disaster from the start. Yeah, it was. It's a very painful thing to recognize. It must have been painful for her to hear it. As to whether or not she really recognizes it herself, I don't know. But that's one of the things I said. I wasn't trying to be harsh, but that's the truth. It was a disaster from the start, like before we got married. I won't go into it, but yeah. So that was hard. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try and damn. I have so much to talk about. Fuck me. Okay. Okay, so when I made the decision that I was gonna divorce her, I didn't tell her for like a month or 6 weeks or something. I had to come up with a plan to escape, because one of the things is, like, I think I mentioned this, she has these emotional waves. Usually they're rage. The waves last like 30 to 90 minutes. So usually it's rage. But it can also be what I can only describe as lugubrious. Lugubrious, it means like to be sad and sorrowful and mournful to an excessive degree, to the point of it being just over the top, even like ridiculous almost. So I knew, like, when I told her that I wanted to get divorced, that these waves were going to hit. So I had this idea, it seems like wishful thinking now, that I was going to have like an escape plan. And my idea was um, to basically get to Poland and crash at my brother-in-law's place. Yeah, I remember in that October, I remember thinking, like, I feel like I have almost no one, but I actually do. It's amazing how valuable it is that I actually have like this one person. That I can rely on. And this idea I had that I would ask him, can I crash at your place for a couple of months? And then by then I should have a job and an apartment. And I basically had no doubt that he was going to say yes. And just not that he would take sides or anything, but just that he would say yes, I guess, and just help me out. I hadn't told him, about, what she can be like, but yeah, she can really lose control of her emotions, which is a sign of a person that has experienced, an unhealthy family, I guess. Yeah, so what happened was that maybe 5-6 weeks after I made the decision, she had one of these conversations with me, like sort of trying to deal with issues, and I had already made the decision. I had already crossed the line. And so she started up, like, not like really like trying to fight or anything, but she wanted to talk about things. And I don't know. I was just sort of like, I was like done, but I hadn't told her. And I just kind of felt like I don't want to play this game, I guess. I just couldn't do it. And I remember I actually brought up the gaslighting because I wasn't sure if she had actually said what she said. So I, in a very conversational tone, like not confrontational at all, I just sort of like brought that up. And when I brought it up, and she said again, yeah, like I said, like, you hadn't hired a lawyer, and so I was stressed, and that's why I said that. And so then I couldn't believe what I was hearing in that moment. So, holy shit, she actually said that. She actually is saying this to me. And so I said, look, like, I had hired a lawyer by then. Like, I just explained it to her. It's like, I had hired a lawyer. That conversation occurred months after I had hired a lawyer. I was like going through the process of like doing the affidavit and everything. And she just shut down. She just like became super emotional and just like started crying. I can't do this. I can't do this. And again, it was like that wall of emotion. And I just couldn't reach her. I couldn't talk to her. And it was at that point, I'm not doing this. And I just, I left, and I went to a bar and had like 2 or 3 beers and everything, and then came back and like slept on, in this room where I'm in now. I slept right here. And then it was the next day I told her that I wanted a divorce. And it was like, that next day probably, it was like when I sent the email to my now former brother-in-law, just sort of, like I said, asking if I could crash at his place, and he didn't respond. And then, maybe 2-3 days went by, and I sent him a text. And I think I just said something like, "Hi, are you there?" I didn't identify myself. And he never responded. So like a couple of 1 or 2 days went by, and then I decided to text him again. I said, "Hi," and I said his name, and I said, "It's Chris. Are you there?" And he texted me back. He said, "Yes, I'm at work." And so I thought, oh, okay, he's at work. Okay, like, so he can't talk or whatever. So I figured he'd maybe text me or something, later in the day, or maybe the next day. And so I waited. The next day, nothing. Then another day, then a third day, and then I was just like, it's not looking good. And I 4 days, 5, I realized, he's ghosting me. She had called him, like maybe 1 or 2 days after I told her I wanted to get divorced, and it was just kind of like crying on the phone to him and stuff. And yeah, so he yeah, he basically ghosted me. This happened with a couple of friends. We had these elderly people that were friends of mine, not anymore. I I don't know. I guess she cried to them as well, and they, they thought I was the bad guy. Um, yeah. So I don't really want to go into that though. Just that happened, like being ghosted by these people. I remember thinking with my brother-in-law, my former brother-in-law. I remember thinking like I don't have any real money to speak of. But it's just like the idea like if I'm gonna like die, like it would be nice to I was gonna put him like in my will or whatever, and that money could go towards like a part of like maybe a little addition to like your down payment you were planning on making to for like an apartment or something, or maybe like a I don't know, a few nice vacations or something like that. It felt good to just like that I have somebody that I could name in my will. um yeah, so it really, getting divorced, I mean, it was the process of realizing I needed to get divorced that was hard, but actually saying that I wanted a divorce, that was not hard. But this, I didn't expect to be ghosted. I didn't expect for him to turn his back on me and other people as well. So that hit me really hard. Yeah, so I said I've lived like a large part of my life in my head. I've always sort of been a loner to one degree or another. Um, like November of 2024, honestly, for the first time in my life, I felt lonely. My understanding is what feeling lonely is you are alone, but you wish that you weren't, and you want to have connection with people. My understanding is that's what the emotion of loneliness is. It's kind of new for me. So I actually felt lonely for the first time in my life, and I'm glad. I'm really really glad to feel that. I feel lonely, and I'm really happy because I'm not on that tropical island. Like I don't want to be on that tropical island. Like it's great. Uh, I am alone, but I wish that I wasn't. That's a really great feeling. That means that I've changed. It's pretty cool to think you can change in your 40s. Um, yeah, this is taken more time than I thought, so I'm gonna take a break. And my right leg is, I don't know, it's like falling asleep or something. So I'll take a little break.